Small business war stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. Hey, lovers of small businesses and good stories in general. Welcome to episode 111 of Small Business War Stories. And today I had the pleasure and honor to sit down with Grant Wilson and Karen Shearhorn. And they are a couple based out of Nashville, Tennessee, who makes guitar pedals. So they make pedals that impact the sound of not only, I guess, initially pedals came about because of guitars, but synthesizers, voice, that basically they alter sound and help people create different experiences with sound. And they have a really cool story. They used to live in New York City, and Grant was a drummer for some touring bands. And then they ended up starting, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but he had some realizations about how the visuals of the product would help him sell his product. And then Karen is a fantastic visual designer, and she also helped him come up with the vision of what these things could look like. And then they ended up moving to Nashville. And we talk a lot about a few different things. First is like how it is that moving to places with a lower cost of living where you can get more space can enable you to fulfill your vision and your dream as a business owner. But we also talked about a few episodes ago, we dug into Google Analytics with Chris Mercer, episode 108, really great episode. And this was actually interesting because Karen runs the analytics page for big ear pedals, and it makes an enormous difference as to their ability to monitor and track what's going on with their company and with their sales. So it's really worthwhile digging into this episode and to understand a little bit better how you can start a company from scratch and use a lot of the tools that we have mentioned in this podcast, from analytics to social media and Instagram to using initially outsourced manufacturing to then doing things in-house. A lot of themes from the podcast have kind of converged on this episode, and they were an amazing vibe from them. They were here visiting Austin, Texas, and we actually met at Willie Nelson's ranch at Luck Reunion, which Luck Reunion was episode 100 of this podcast. Also a great episode. Check us out on our new website at smallbusinesswarstories.com. You'll be able to see all of the archives of the show, as well as different resources to help your small business. Again, smallbusinesswarstories.com. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode, number 111, with Grant Wilson and Karen Shearhorn of Big Ear Pedals. And we are live here in beautiful Austin, Texas. And today I have the pleasure and honor to be joined by Grant Wilson and Karen Shearhorn, who are the co-owners of Big Ear Pedals. Welcome to the show.
Howdy.
Hi.
You guys are here from Nashville, Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And New York before that. So
New York City.
Long time in New York before.
And then
that.
Brooklyn, New York City.
Okay, very cool. So you guys are a traveling business couple.
We are indeed.
That's awesome.
Presently, yeah.
And we introduce you as the co-owners of Big Ear Pedals. So our audience might be wondering: are these bicycle pedals? Are these what kind of pedals are we talking about here?
These are effects pedals for musicians. I guess people think of them as guitar pedals, but they are bass pedals. They are vocal pedals. They're whatever you want to plug into them. They're anything pedals that you can put an audio signal through and make it sound different.
Okay.
They sound really good on synth.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Something
Yeah.
we've recently discovered.
Okay, so people put these traditional use for guitar pedals,
Yeah.
but they put it's keys on it.
People are starting to just really get very experimental, and which is crazy because obviously when I first got into this, I thought things were very experimental at that time, and now there's worlds of instruments and things that just did not exist 10, 15 years ago. At
Like
least
what?
in
What kind of stuff?
Well, just like the synth world is outrageous now, and there's so many companies making so many new things. There's so many new types of pedals. There's so many new types of sounds that just didn't exist, at least when I started this.
Okay.
It's just an exciting time for music in general because of what people can add to it to spice it up now.
Okay.
Because of these fun toys.
And you and I, you both and I met at, is that even an English term? I'm going to just run with it. All of us met at the Luck Reunion event, which is, they were actually episode number 100 of this podcast. And that was out at Willie Nelson's ranch out here during South by Southwest. And you were out there demoing your pedals. So tell me a little bit more about that. So how is it, how do you connect with the music community? What are the things that you do? And you were also telling me there, actually before we even get into that, you were telling me there like how you even started this, which is kind of like, you know, one of Bob Ross's happy little accidents, right? So how did this first get started? And then we'll go into the connecting with the community.
Well, I toured in bands for a long time before starting this, and once that I got a little burnout on it and didn't know what I wanted to do. I loved selling things. I loved and always making things my whole life, but I originally thought maybe I'll start making drums. Because
you were a drummer.
I was a drummer in the band that I toured with heavily for like 7 years.
I gave that a hard veto because we lived in a small apartment in the Lower East Side on Eldridge and Houston, and
Wouldn't have made sense.
it really would not have made sense. They would have been really big.
When I would do a project like a woodworking project, I would use our sink as the sawhorse.
Oh, yeah.
And then just wash the sawdust down.
My first guitar I ever made, it was a cigar box guitar. Actually, after I showed you the one that I made as a kid, but I gave that to my mom for her birthday, and that I made in a studio apartment. Literally, like under those very similar circumstances, like deploying, like moving the dinner table so I can put a deployable bench. You know,
Totally.
Everything's in boxes. You undo, set up and tear down, and set up and tear down for every process.
It takes a significant amount of cleanup too.
Yeah.
But so I guess I quickly got off the drum idea, and I've played guitar my whole life as well, and I've been a crazy pedal collector for several years. And I had this pedal, which actually it wasn't necessarily a special pedal. It was just like a Behringer, one of those old, in a big metal enclosure Behringers, kind of like they looked like they were ripping off an Electro-Harmonix box.
Okay.
And it had a terrible looking graphic on it. And so I took a Scotch-Brite, is that what it's called? The like scouring pad?
Sure.
I took a scouring pad and just took the whole graphic off the top of it, left it down just to the powder coat. I gave it to Karen, who is an artist, an amazing artist and graphic designer, and gave her a Sharpie and asked her if she minded to customize it for me and just make it look fun because it was.
Yeah, he hands me the Sharpie and the pedal, and he's like, draw something. And I'm like, what am I supposed to draw? And he was like, anything that you want. I'm like, I'm gonna draw a bunny. And so I drew this like little angry bunny, and he's like, he looks a little crazy, and he's like maniacal.
His eyebrows are
he
kind of up.
He looks a little like he's thinking something special, and he was like, I'm gonna do it, and he's pulling a rope that's twisting the gears, which are actually the knobs of the guitar pedal. And the whole idea was just for that one pedal, and then Grant saw it and was like, oh, it looks great.
When I saw it, it immediately sparked like literally one of those light bulb moments where I thought, I'm going to start a guitar pedal company.
Yeah.
Like I know that's silly. I don't know how to make guitar pedals, but just seeing this pedal and realizing it went from being this kind of undesirable, kind of weird, ugly thing to this like kind of thing that just was exciting and new and fresh. And it was just because of the look of the thing. And then I realized, sound is subjective anyway. People, if you make something that, you think sounds good, someone might think it sounds terrible, and vice versa. And so that's really, it's neither here nor there, but things do have to look good. And that's very important in today's day and age, especially because I think we talked about this before the other day. People, they'll get a new piece of gear and they're taking a picture of it and putting it on Instagram before they've even plugged it in. And they don't even know what it sounds like yet, but it's their new favorite thing because it just looks cool and it makes them feel good to hold it. And so it hit me. I was like, I'm going to make guitar pedals, and I'm going to make really nice guitar pedals that, that are clean.
How long ago was that?
Well, that was about 7 years ago. It took us 2 years to actually we're only a 5-year-old company. Yeah. Technically. We've been in sales for 5 years, but it took us, 2 years. So 7 years ago.
In the making.
The origin story.
So how did you learn? You had to learn how to do the circuitry and all that? How does that work?
I didn't. I hired people.
Okay.
I immediately.
Well, you started.
Well, I started trying
to learn,
Yeah.
and then what happened was he was like, by the time that I feel like I'm really, really ready,
Yeah.
it will be too late. I wanted
to start
now.
right away, and I wanted to sell, a great product right away.
Yeah.
That I guess it's not true to say that I didn't, because now I have, and now I do build our pedals. And that was, different set of circumstances. In fact, hugely because I didn't think that it was a confidence thing in the beginning.
Yeah.
I just didn't think, I was like, man, I really want these things to be great right away, and it's going to take me too long.
Yep.
And I'm going to have, I don't, just hours in general, like they're real
think
things.
that's like-
It's a valid approach to say,
Yeah.
like, you're going to start off when somebody who really knows what they're doing is going to build it, and then you learn over time. And
Yeah. And that's where we are now. And
so you're making them now?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a manufacturing facility, or do you make them yourself? How does that work?
I do make them myself. Up until just a few months ago, we worked with a contract manufacturer in Anaheim.
Okay.
Prior to that, we worked with a shop in Texas, actually, down
Okay.
here. And
The
then-
shipping is really hard because you spend a lot of time. It's more about the time, really, than it
it's
is
a lot
costly
slower.
to ship, but
And
it's more about the time, and so you lose so many days just with the back and forth that it's just it makes more sense to do it in house.
Okay.
And honestly, when it's in house, also you're physically there, so you're able to kind of build off of what you're doing at that moment.
Monitor
Sometimes
everything.
things come around where
Yeah.
you'll be inspired to do something different than you may have done if you weren't physically doing it.
Yeah.
So it's been.
So
pretty
you guys
cool.
have then you guys make them in Nashville?
We
yes,
do.
yes.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so you have a house there with a shop, or do you have
Yep.
a separate shop?
Yep.
How does that?
Yep.
We do. We have a house that's, I guess, like a split level house.
Okay.
So it's like the bottom level is all big gear.
Which
Okay.
is nice. It's
Yeah.
nice to keep work and life separate a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
Although we don't actually do that really often. We are mainly in the shop most of the time. But
Yeah. And sometimes that bleeds into the house as well. And
Yeah.
the kitchen table becomes the shop, and sometimes, and everywhere becomes the shop when you're doing.
migrates.
I can see that Karen wants to avoid that as much as possible, based on her facial expression when you said that.
Well, I'm just remembering when we were doing the pedals for Luck.
Yeah.
Our entire house was just
Yeah.
basically
those are really
Luck
cool looking.
pedals.
You probably
Thank
made
you.
a small run of those, right?
We
45.
did 45 pedals. I guess for those that don't know what we're talking about, we did 45 pedals for Luck Reunion that the artists that performed all went home with. So
Okay.
each one to each act that performed.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and they look, in my opinion, I think they're the best looking pedal that we've made so far, and they sound really great.
Well, the one
Yeah.
I bought from you is beautiful too. I bought the L. The,
Yes.
Reverb.
Oh, I love the L.
Yeah.
She's really pretty.
Yeah.
It sounds so good.
It sounds really good. I mean, I was, I plugged in your guitar there, and I was playing through them, and that's the one that spoke to me. So
It's physically, it's also like this black sparkle finish. I don't know if because it was kind of darker, but it's
A
like every
translucent
color.
sparkle.
It's like
Yeah.
black sparkle, but it's like every color when you like get it in the light. You'll see like every color.
iridescent,
And it's
yeah.
just like the universe. It's like this crazy galaxy thing, and
like
it
it.
sounds like that too.
Yeah.
It takes you to space, and it
it's
has that
definitely
spacey.
spacey.
Yeah.
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 There are a
Yeah.
few songs that I've written that have a little bit of that quality, and so yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Awesome. How did you guys get connected with Luck Reunion? How did that happen?
From
Joe,
my
our very
touring
good
days,
friend.
I guess, making friends
Yeah.
in music, and we were actually, I think, headed to South by Southwest several years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and met a band called Cult Fever, and became friends with Joe Darniak of Cult Fever, and came to realize that he lived a couple blocks from us in Brooklyn. And so we just became friends and would hang out in Brooklyn. And then
We're neighbors.
a couple months ago, I guess it was in September of last year, he hit us up and said, "Hey, I'm coming down to Nashville. What are you guys doing? Want to hang out?" And I told him it was actually going to be my birthday that weekend. And he said, "Dude, you got to come to the Luck Mansion."
Oh, that's right. They
They're
did
doing
something
Yeah.
for what is it, Americana
the
Fest?
Americana
Americana
Fest.
Fest.
And then he said, actually, you should bring your pedal board. You should set up your pedals. And so I got this idea to do, rather than just taking our pedal board, I got in touch with several of my friends because it's kind of funny, but in New York, there aren't a tremendous amount of pedal builders, and you'd think being New York City, there would be. In Nashville, all of my closest friends are pedal makers.
Really?
Yeah.
Like all
it's
of
pretty
them.
much like we mainly hang out with other pedal builders.
I barely know anyone that doesn't make pedals. It's really strange.
Wow.
And so I pitched the idea of making a Pedal Makers of Nashville board, which would, be a mixed board of a variety of pedals from all of these people. And they loved the idea. So we set it up at the mansion and just made like a little, display that
Mini
the
board.
artists could come and it was in headphones, so they could sample the stuff same as it was at Luck.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all big ear pedals. It was, a mixed variety. And I think it was more fun because
It was
of
kind
that.
of entertaining. You got to see.
Just made it more of a scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes it more like it's about the community than it's
Yeah,
about
and it
your-
is. I mean, we do a lot of things like that. Our NAM booth that we do, I mean, we have like 40 brands in our
NAM
booth.
is the National Association of Music Manufacturers, right?
Yep.
That's
Music
a big trade
merchants.
show.
Yep.
Merchants.
Yeah.
I went to that one year, and that's all I need.
Yeah,
I
it's
had an
really
enormous
big.
headache after 3 days of walk. I was walking around with earplugs. I mean, obviously, I have like the sonic earplugs that reduce it. It is.
It's-
Everybody. It's like 1,000 guitar centers.
I was just
stacked
going
on
to say
top
that.
of
It's
each
like
other.
Yeah.
1,000 guitar centers.
Yeah.
So much noise.
Yeah.
It's although maybe the players are a little better than the average guitar center player,
It doesn't matter.
but it doesn't matter
they're
because it's
stacked,
just
so
noise
much-
and
yeah.
it just becomes this chaos, especially if
Yeah.
you're near the drum hall.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
That's like saying that you go to a beverage convention and that the Coca-Cola and the coffee and the milkshake are all delicious, but when you mix them all together, it's not delicious.
Not
No.
delicious. No.
it's really rough. And then especially whenever you've been, prepping for this convention for several weeks, maybe months,
Yeah.
and like not sleeping and losing your mind, and then you're exhausted and you finally get your booth set up and you're like, yes, okay, we have like 6 hours to sleep tonight. And
Yeah.
then it's onslaught for the next like 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 days, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And all you want is just a week to just like lay on the ground and just not hear a sound. But
Yeah.
you don't get that. You get the Beat Buddy booth and
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the community aspect. So I want to understand why you moved from New York to Nashville. So I've been to Nashville. I interviewed actually Third Man Records. I had Ben from Third Man on the show. And then actually, I just a few days ago met Erica that runs the Bluebird Cafe there.
Cool.
So she invited me to come by. So I'm probably going to be in Nashville at some point. I'll hit you guys up in
Nice.
the next 6 months or so. But what is it that prompted you to move? Because now you're deeper, like more immersed, based on what you're saying in the music community. What prompted you to move from New York to Nashville?
Space,
Okay.
lower overhead.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
The rent is too damn high.
The rent. Well, it's when you're not utilizing New York City for going out, enjoying the nightlife, that kind of thing. It's really inconvenient to live in New York.
Yeah.
Going to the grocery store is hard.
Yeah.
You have to carry
Christie's, right?
Christie's
Yeah.
or Whole Foods or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can have your food delivered, but still, it's kind of hard.
And it's expensive.
yeah.
And it's expensive. And then
Every time you leave your house, it's like
It's
you
a
know,
weird
you
way
have
of
40
living.
less dollars just for walking out the front door.
because you're constantly living for just that day, and then the next day is for that day,
Yeah.
and so you're never really stockpiling
There's something
anything.
poetic about that, but I
Yeah.
I hear you.
But when you're trying to build a company
Yeah.
with lots of pieces and parts,
Yep.
and then store them, and then have room to do all of the things without having to tear them down every single time,
Yeah.
that makes a huge difference in efficiency and
Your mental health, probably.
mental health.
My goodness,
Totally.
absolutely.
Yeah, you
and
get
not
so less frustrated.
and not only all of those points are like the most. That is, when we were deciding to do this, like making the bullet points, and those are all like the top bullet points, and then you realize you're like, Nashville is actually somehow has more music than New York.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And more musicians and more, and they're,
It's,
and,
Well,
they're
Austin has more music than New York.
Yeah.
and so then you add that and factor that into the like lower overhead and more space, and it's just like, why the hell are we in New York City right now?
Yeah.
This
Where
doesn't
are you
make-
guys from originally?
Originally, I'm from Ohio,
Okay.
and he's from Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you guys moved to New York, a big city. Actually, that's been a trend that's from a lot of guests on the podcast. People who've gone from their smaller hometowns and to big cities, to like New York, LA, San Francisco, and then once they sort of find, I mean, they experience that, and when they find what they want to do, they end up coming back to smaller places where they have more of an impact and they feel like they have more control over what they can do, and because of the lower overhead, you can be more creative.
Totally.
Because you become, I know that in times when I've had financial difficulties, I'm like 10 IQ points dumber. It's like you just get like constantly scared, and having like more room to breathe definitely frees up creativity.
Completely. 100%. Yeah, and I was also in New York. It was kind of hard because I was working full time with Toomey outerwear division, and so I would take the subway on the morning and evening commute, and I just got so tired of being touched all the time. All the time you were being touched.
New York, yeah, that's the subway. That'll happen.
See, I just never left the house, so it was it was fine. I used to.
You had all the people come to you though, because you had all the gear that you could show them.
Yeah, I didn't have to leave. I don't want to leave. I didn't.
So what other places did you guys consider? You considered Nashville? Where else?
Just Nashville.
Just Nashville, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loved this place from when I toured. We'd come through Nashville, and it was always, it's just like a magical place. And especially being a musician, you come here, every time I would leave Nashville, I would know more about music. I would have learned something just from playing with the bands that we would play with, you know? If you watch the other bands, you always learn tricks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be like, oh, I never thought of doing that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting fill, or that was an interesting lick, or like something that,
Yeah.
just a different approach, or like different pedal approach or whatever. And, Nashville is one of those towns where people are crazy here. It's an amazing, amazing town for me.
Austin has an interesting scene too. I mean,
I keep saying here. I keep saying here because when I'm in Austin, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in Nashville.
Yeah.
They have a very similar
it's all
vibe. Yeah.
I think Austin's a little bit more live music oriented. And
Yeah.
then Nashville's a little bit more studio and music business. There's
True.
there's very little music business in Austin.
Exactly. Nashville, I think, is the #1 city in
North America.
for
At least for money and music, like
money
being
making
gross.
music.
That's at least that's like, I mean, across the board, mom and pop record shops and guitar shops, and as well as publishing and everything, like the whole live performance, everything. Supposedly, we've seen a couple articles,
And that's even outside of the main, when people think about visiting Nashville that are not in the music industry, a lot of times their mind goes to like Broadway, right, which is like the main kind of like party drag there, or like Printer's Alley and things like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of the music stuff's not happening around there. I mean, there's obviously the honky tonks and all that, but you have a lot of music's happening in like the outskirts and the east side of Nashville.
East
and you
Nashville.
Have a lot,
I was honestly surprised.
Berry Hill.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry to cut you
there's-
off. I was surprised how many rock and like hard rock bands will come through Nashville.
Yeah.
I had no clue. And a lot of my friends, people that I haven't, when you live in New York, you don't get to see everybody all the time because it's so crazy. And then you move to Nashville, and all of a sudden you start seeing all your New York friends
Because they all come
because
through.
they're all coming through, and they're playing, these rock clubs, and there's a lot of rock clubs, and there's a lot of people that really like loud rock music here, and I didn't know that.
Okay.
So
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I want to hear a little bit more about, so what has it been like on the business front? Let's get back a little bit on that front. What are the things how did you initially start? I mean, you initially, I presume, started selling the pedals to your friends, right? And then how has your merchandising and your marketing evolved over time? How do you currently distribute? Do you sell through stores? Do you sell mostly direct through things like Instagram? How does that work?
We do sell through some stores, so we sell mostly direct. We sell mostly through our online website. Though I think, Grant, you kind of started with Instagram.
I mean, I didn't even have
so
it. I literally started.
Sold our first pedal off of a sketch
Okay.
of the loaf.
Okay.
We didn't even have a finished and finalized like circuit.
Okay.
I knew that it was coming. I knew that it was going to work.
Yeah.
I was putting faith in the whole process.
Well, if Grant really wants to do something, he makes it happen.
Okay.
So it was just...
And just believe that it's going to happen, and just like run fully into it like it is happening.
Yeah.
And that's what I did there. And so we didn't even have a finished circuit. We didn't have an enclosure for it. We didn't have anything.
Yeah.
But I knew what it was going to look like, and I knew what it was going to be called. So she made some really great graphics with, the look of the loaf and like one. It's like he's like a giant, like knocking down the building, saying the loaf is coming, and just these fun kind of little graphic ads.
But your look has evolved, because right now you have a very sort of clean lines ethic.
It's totally the same.
It looked exactly
the same.
Okay.
The look that we drew.
Start and finish from just minimalism. It's like all been very clean.
Okay.
But I just didn't actually have a physical
We
pedal
just
to
didn't
take a
have
picture of.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
So and nor did I have the finished circuit. So again, I was like, I know what it's going to look
the
like.
exception was the bunny then. The bunny was
The bunny was
yeah.
special. So
Okay.
the bunny ended up being the logo, which we actually have, but we don't really put him
rarely
on
use
very
it.
many things. We're going to start, I think,
The bunny-
utilizing him a little more. But
The bunny was just, seeing the bunny made me think Big Ear.
Got it.
And then I thought Big Ear, and actually it was Big Ear NYC at the time.
Yep.
And we just dropped the NYC about a year ago, and now we're Big Ear pedals. But
And oddly enough, we actually have 2 bunny rabbits that we did not have when he named it.
There you go. That's funny.
but where were we just before?
You were talking about selling on
um,
Instagram and how you
Oh, so, we made a website. We were selling everything through the website, but I just started an Instagram for this brand, which had no actual product yet. And we made some graphics for this product that was going to be coming. And then we made like a pre-sale graphic, and we started pre-selling them. And for whatever reason, people just started buying them. And we sold, and then once we actually released it, we sold our first 100 in the first 100 days, which I thought was really, and I think
That's
it's
a
still
lot.
really great. Yeah,
That is
for
impressive.
a brand that nobody had ever heard of.
Yeah.
And to put trust in us, and that was really cool. And I think it was all because of the look, but also the Big Ear NYC, like having NYC in our name.
And what percentage of those 100 came from people whom you didn't know before?
The majority of them.
Okay.
They were
Wow.
all just strangers. Yeah.
Really? And they just found you on
There were a
Instagram?
couple friends would buy one. And
Okay,
then,
I don't want to gloss over that, because that's extraordinarily challenging, and I think most of our audience would be really interested in that. How did you sell your first 100 pedals within 100 days to people who you didn't know without a product?
Well, that once we had the product, that was the 100 days following.
Okay.
But so I didn't count the pre-sale days. But because I toured for so long before, I had a lot of friends in music.
Okay.
I just knew a lot of people that went on to have some pretty great gigs, I guess. And when I started, I got in touch with some of these people and said, "Hey, man, I'm making pedals now. I'd love to get you one. And if I could, get a picture of you with it, like just your smiling face and the pedal, that would be huge for me." And so if you go to our page, our website, we have an artist page, which is actually our most viewed page on our website.
Yeah, we actually looked at our analytics, and it's and people don't actually visit the other pages really. They
Well, the
they
store
mainly
pages.
go
The
go
about
straight
page?
to they go straight to the artist page.
Okay.
And then immediately to the sales page.
Wow.
So,
By the way, it's amazing. We had a really good episode about 3 weeks ago where we talked with an expert in Google Analytics about how small businesses can use Google Analytics more.
yeah, they have to, because it's really the only way to be seen.
And for you to understand, also turn the light on as to what's going on in your
Yeah.
business, right?
Where
Yeah.
people are going and what they're clicking on. It's
in
interesting.
the world of ones and O's, to be able to be pulled out.
So I know that was a huge reason, because I was immediately able to start sharing, really big bands and artists.
Okay.
And that's
Can you say some of them?
like I'm very close friends with Nick Bockrath from Cage the Elephant.
Okay.
He used to fill in on guitar for the band that I played in.
Yeah. To Keith Elephant. So the guy that did that poster on the wall right there, his name is Dan Grissom, and he did the John Prine's show here, and he was on the show as well. Really good episode, Biscuit Press. And he did a poster for Cage the Elephant
Nice.
very recently. So yeah, it's a small world.
Yeah, and they're all Nashville dudes,
Yeah.
except for Nick. He was from Philly.
Okay.
And so it was just, close buddies with him. I was close friends with Jason Roberts, who plays with Nora Jones.
Okay.
And just knew him from when he was in a band called Hymns. We used to play shows together and, just became buddies. And so that was, those were two of our first artists that were using pedals.
So the elements, if I'm putting together, obviously every business is different, right? But I think for people who are our audience who are small businesses or people who are thinking about start small businesses, some of the elements that I'm hearing are One is, design and visual ethic. The other one is social proof and kind of bringing these people that can, share your message. Then I'm also hearing something along the lines of like, making sure that you're out there on Instagram, and also the Google Analytics part, so you can understand that your artist page is that important, right? Because that's not something that would be immediately obvious. Like, it's not like you.
And it wasn't. I didn't even have an artist page on our website for quite some time.
Okay.
I had it on our Facebook page, and it was pinned to the top of the Facebook page.
Okay.
And then I don't even know why it wasn't on the website. Just because there's so much that you have to do, and there's so many things to think about, and I just somehow spaced on that one.
Well, we also started doing our own handling our own website.
Okay.
When I switched from full time, when I was doing part time to full time.
Yeah.
With Big Ear.
With Big Ear, we just started doing our own website, and it's easier to control. So then you can kind of see what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And make fast changes.
And then make fast changes.
How long ago did you start using Google Analytics? I'm really interested in. I mean, it's a quote unquote boring topic that is so crucially important.
Pretty much from the beginning of starting our site.
Okay.
Just because we were using it as we started.
Yeah.
But she's had to use it with other.
I
So
also
you had some
do
experience.
other. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to people who maybe are intimidated by that, who have a small business? Let's say they're very skilled at making or have a service or a product, and a lot of times they have a website, but a lot of times they're flying blind because they don't understand exactly what's going on, like what's actually driving sales. What advice would you have people getting started with that?
I would say that that there's a lot of information, and it's all important.
And you can do it
So
all wrong.
you can do it wrong,
Okay.
but if you read the information that they give you, you can do it right. It's
Okay,
just
you mean the Google Analytics?
Google
stuff?
Analytics
Yeah.
will walk you through how to do it.
Yeah.
It's just it looks really overwhelming in the beginning.
There's so much in there, right?
Honestly, their platform is not user friendly.
Yeah.
It's really hard to navigate.
Right.
Just for the general user, it's hard. It looks like just a jumbled sense of nonsense.
Right.
But I would recommend just trying as best as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Even if you can find a tutor who maybe works with a university or something like that,
Yeah.
to kind of walk you through if you still can't manage to get past that initial shock.
There are a lot of YouTube videos out there.
There's a lot of YouTube videos that I've watched. But also one thing that I'd like to say about the whole situation is, I think the reason that it's worked out so well is because of the vision.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a really strong vision from the very beginning, then everything sort of just falls into place.
Right.
You kind of it kind of dictates your way.
For some reason, I feel like there's a really strong analogy there with learning a musical instrument, right? So,
Exactly.
like learning a musical instrument, the first time you look at a guitar, I mean, sure, it looks like people are playing it on stage and like they're just strumming a couple things, but once you start actually understanding what's going on there, I mean, the scale, like the kind of overlapping scales where you have 6 different strings with that do different things, and then the piano is a little more linear. Actually, I can't play keys at all, but I can play guitar, and the keys are also very
It's easier to visualize.
Yeah.
I think.
And that's the trick, is realizing you can.
Right, that's exactly right.
That's the trick.
That's where I was going, because that's where the
Yeah.
vision brings you, and it's just like, yeah, it's gonna be frustrating, and you're gonna be like holding your breath, and it's like, just take that
Here we
breath
go.
and keep going, right? Because I mean, I've been playing bigger venues and bigger things, but I started playing as a grown person the guitar with more seriously, and it's frustrating. It's you just got to get through it, right?
I did myself a disservice by playing drums. No. Okay, that's a bad. If you just cut it right there, that sounds bad. I did myself a disservice by only playing drums for several years.
Okay.
And I mean, I would pick up a guitar now and again, but for most of my life, I was playing. My younger life, when I had less things to do and less responsibilities, I had a lot more time to just play music, and so I was splitting my time equally between all these different things. And then whenever I got older and I was touring and drums were now my passion, but also my job, and that was what I had to do. It became like 8 hours of drum practice every day, and every day, and then touring and playing drums, and maybe I'd pick up a ukulele in the van, or maybe I'd pick up a guitar at rehearsal every now and again. But for almost a decade, I barely played the guitar, and so now it feels so foreign to me sometimes, and I pick it up and I'm like, what the heck? It was never like that to me before.
Right.
And
but that's also mental, right?
Yeah.
Just
It
pick
is,
up,
yeah.
Just pick up a guitar for 15 minutes every day, and
Yeah.
after 6 months, you'll feel like it's not foreign.
and that's another thing.
Part
is,
of
is
it's memory, body memory.
I usually nowadays I play guitar when I'm testing pedals.
Okay.
And so I play the same things over and over again because I know how the pedals sound with these specific.
Right.
It's
I
fun.
do
We
this type of thing and this type of thing, and then
We've got like the Full House theme song.
Okay.
and,
definitely
like,
definitely play the Full House theme song.
That's awesome.
King of the Hill theme
King of the
songs in
Hill.
there.
Oh yeah, actually, it's funny. I opened for I have a group of friends of mine in the Hill Country, and one of the guitarists, they gave him like a 90-second segment to play the King of the Hill thing, and he was very proud that it's actually kind of a fast, like funky piece, right?
It's fun. It's fun. I like TV theme songs.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of television, but I enjoy the theme songs.
Yeah. Can you think of a time when things went really wrong in your business? And
Oh,
what
man.
And what did you do about it?
Oh man. Okay, so I'll kind of glaze over this a little bit, but we talked about this, and I don't really know. It kind of sucked, but I mentioned earlier that we worked with a different shop originally.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we stopped working with that shop is because we found out that we were being stolen from.
Oh.
And
when you don't physically make your own things, it's really hard to know
exactly what's in the inventory.
What's in the inventory, what's supposed to be in the inventory, what is in the pedals that you have currently.
We were being told things had shipped that conveniently receipts could not be found for that never shipped. We had packages that marked as received that we were being told were never received, and it was an ugly situation.
So you literally just got screwed over.
Yeah. So we did. So we got out of that.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and I mean, it did cost us a lot of money.
But you
and
try one way,
and
it
a lot of
doesn't
mental.
work.
I mean, it really
try
screwed
another way
me
then,
up just
you know?
because you put trust in people, and then
Yeah.
it kind of sometimes goes south, and then screws you up like you did something.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, that's you like you said, you just use that as a learning experience.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
you do some, now you're thriving and doing.
Went to
something
a great. We then found. I was at NAMM. I met a guy out there that has a shop in Anaheim, and we then worked with him for a couple years, and it was fantastic. And now, we parted ways to move everything to Nashville and do
Yeah.
it here, but it's all on good terms.
Yeah.
And it's super cool.
Yeah.
So it was, had we not had that first thing happen, we wouldn't have found the second shop. And
I want to take a tiny seg here to another topic that's come up in this podcast a lot, which is manufacturing in the U.S. Right? So versus abroad, because the circuits that you're making here in Nashville can probably be made in China for 10% of the cost, if not less.
we could definitely have boards populated and soldered overseas.
Well, we've been considering it, honestly, just for the time factor.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know if I've been considering having them pre-populated. I don't know if the company that I'm thinking of actually is in, I think, North Carolina. So,
Okay.
But you can have it done overseas, and if there's still that possibility. But that said, it's only just the circuit. Now, you could have the whole pedal made overseas. Yes, you could have turnkey, like they're going to send you the box, and it's in the with the packaging, and the label, and everything.
But there's something nice
But
about
would never do that.
Yeah.
Even if I had the boards made, I would still assemble them into the enclosure.
Mm-hmm.
They need that human, you need to like play it and determine
hear
if it
it.
sounds right and
Okay.
if it's good
Yeah.
enough to make the
So
cut.
you test every pedal that comes out of your shop.
every pedal.
every pedal.
So the L that I'm going to be receiving has been. Actually, you guys should sign this.
I do.
We do.
Oh, you guys
He
sign
does,
I have my
yeah.
signature. It'll be in there. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And then you also get a little handwritten thank you card on the top.
All right.
So,
All right.
yeah.
So you sign the actual pedal.
Yeah.
The
On
outside
inside.
of it? Oh, you sign the outside of it with like a silver Sharpie or something.
I can
like
do
that. Clear coat it or something like that. So I can clear coat it. You don't have to. add more stuff.
I'll do that for you, man.
We can do that.
Awesome. So what would you say is the number one lesson? We've covered a lot of lessons on a lot of really important topics here. But what would you say is the number one lesson for somebody who's either in small business or thinking about starting a small business that you would want to share with them?
I would say from my experience, if you're not feeling confident about something, just do it or try it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Because what I did was screwed myself up by not trying.
Okay.
And then once I realized that because I got really good really fast, and because I'm OCD and I'm really anal and I'm very meticulous, and that's I think what it takes to do this.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that I had it in me to be like, I thought everybody's so much better at, like, these people have been doing this for years, and there's no possible way that a newbie could just come in and have anything to offer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's stupid. Like, why think like that?
Yeah.
And so I would urge anyone that has like confidence issues, it's hard. I know you can't just get over them. I know that's a mental thing.
Yeah.
But like, maybe try anyway.
Karen, what do you think?
Probably the same that we were talking about is just know you can.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible.
Yeah.
Even if you physically can't, you can make it happen.
Yeah. Originally, that's kind of what you guys
that's
did,
what we
right?
did.
Well, yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And honestly, there will be a lot of people who
And then
tell you
don't
that
quit.
you can't, but you can, because people have done it. And honestly, the people who do it are really interested in having other people do it too, because it's fun, it's camaraderie. That's why we're friends with all of the guitar pedal makers.
Especially in this. Well, this particular community is very weird because of that.
Yeah.
The guitar pedal community is one I've never heard of any other. Even in like music, there's bands have like, they're friends, but sometimes there is competition, and sometimes it's in the pedal world, people always talk about like your competitors, and it's like, these are our friends, these are people, because nobody has a pedal board with just one company on it.
Right.
People have like 30 pedals on their board from 20 different manufacturers,
And sometimes you like to switch them out for new things and try different other things, and it's like they're like paint colors. You can't just paint with blue.
Yeah.
So I would just say that just don't quit. Keep Keep trying.
that one guy.
Unless you're that one guy who does that.
The one guy who paints only blue. I mean, that's actually my music is kind of, I use very few pedals. This is going to be like the first kind of coloring pedal that I got.
But you don't use like only like
I used to sound different guitars.
Dan Electro pedals, or like only a Fender guitar, or like only, because it's good to have options and different flavors, and we get that, and so we know we're all in it together there.
Sounds good. Where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about your company? So what are your handles, your website, your Instagram, so forth?
Big Ear Pedals at pretty much everything. At Big Ear Pedals and bigearpedals.com. BIGEARPEDALS.
Awesome.
.com.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Grant, Karen, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I know, are you guys driving back to Nashville today? Or?
The plan is probably later.
Later.
We have to see a couple more people.
We'll see.
Okay.
And then, because we don't get down here often. I don't fly on airplanes. I won't get on one. So for me to get down here, I have to drive down here. And so I'm going to make the most of it.
10 hours?
It was supposed to be 12. It took 18.
18. We hit two major rainstorms.
Oof. Like, I thought I was going to die. Storms.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I really didn't know if we were going to make it.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're here.
We did.
And I'm glad I got to meet you at Luck Reunion.
Yeah.
We actually made it 23 minutes before the deadline to load into Luck Reunion.
That is amazing.
We I drove 18 hours straight. I slept for 10 minutes in a Target parking lot.
Wow.
While
This
she
guy
ran inside to get some stuff.
A champion, seriously.
But that's what it takes.
That's what it takes.
Yeah, it's like that
Yeah.
Tim McGraw song. What is it? Like he starts like Robert Johnson went to the crossroad, and then he kind of like details the life of a touring musician, and he's like, night after night, you're getting beat up, and like if you want to make it, that's what it takes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
playing in toilets and.
Yeah.
I don't know that particular song, but I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing that we've all done.
Yeah. Sounds good. On that note, we're gonna sign off with this episode of Small Business War Stories. Safe travels to you. And,
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us.
Thank you for the show. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.